Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I am your host, Ashley Hilt, and this week joining me to share his experiences of the strange variety is host of Conspire Theory, Chris. Chris, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty
Good
good,
to
pretty
talk to you,
good.
Mrs. H.
Oh,
Miss Hilt.
thank you. I know, right? I'm not Asherz on this show. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, but I like Asherz.
She's okay. She's a little raunchy. I don't know.
Mm,
Um, I just thought that it would be a good idea to kind of, I guess, present myself professionally, even though I'm still a professional on my other shows. But for the comfort of some of the guests, they're not used to the Ashers. So here I am as Ashley Hilt. So anyway,
bring her back.
she's, she's my alter ego. Um, anyway. Thank you so much for coming on and offering to share your experiences here. Now you run a podcast, and a lot of what you do over there is take in these types of accounts. Is that right?
Yeah, I talk to a lot of interesting people, researchers and experiencers in the field. One of my one of my interests that I really like to look into is stuff like the alien abduction phenomena, cryptids, and all these strange creatures that a lot of people tend to run into in their experiences. And I just find that stuff fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I agree. I've been on your show before, as well as former co-host Pato has been on your show before. It's definitely it's nice to not be on the host end of it, right? And be able to kind of be yourself and have the space to be vulnerable without feeling like you're talking too much about yourself while entertaining a guest. So I'm glad that you decided to come on here and share your experiences, and I can't wait for you to share them with the listeners. So
Yeah.
whenever you're ready, if you want to
Well,
go
I've been
ahead.
gnawing
Oh, go
at at your heels since the furry episode that I was on, where I had to explain everything about what furry is and stuff,
People love that episode, by the way.
and then you guys like don't get it, and then I have to go no no no, and then I have to correct you. I
That's
realized
okay.
I never explained what YIF was in that
Well, I don't think
episode.
I think that's probably I don't think you did explain YIF. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well,
You know.
just to wrap up for those people who are left hanging for like several months. What YIF is it's sort of like a derogatory term used among the furries for the F word. Not the short one, the long one that's four letters. And it's like dogs bark, cows moo, foxes yiff. They say yiff and stuff, and so that's sort of used as, you'll see like lots of men. Well, mostly because furries are like 80% gay men. They'll have like these T-shirts that say "Let's yiff," and that's sort of,
Oh.
you can sort of figure out what that means, and it's a fun it's just fun thing to sort of squeak the normies with.
So,
So now you're
like,
in on the inside joke.
so with the F word, right? It's like you can, if you are one, you can use it as a term of endearment, but if you're not one, then it's an insult. Is that like most slurs, I guess?
Well, I mean, it's not really a slur. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
it's an adverb.
It's an So can I
No,
can
I
I
meant the
can I
other
use it?
the other F word, not the one you're thinking of that you
Gotcha.
like
Okay.
the other F word, the F, the U, and and the other one,
Oh,
the fornication under consent of the king.
gotcha.
That.
I've never heard it broken down that way before. I'm gonna steal that one. So I can use the if I'm allowed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, you could say. I
Oh,
mean, I've pretty much christened you an honorary, honorary furry.
and
So,
that's true.
so you can use "yif" all you want, and since your species is a fox, you get premium seating to use that word.
Oh, okay. I
Since
can
it's
yiff it
a
up.
yeah, yeah, pretty much, and no one can give you grief for it because that's the rules.
Yeah. So anybody that is here, who again, didn't recognize it. Chris was there for our furry episode and explained furryism, furries. Is there like an actual is furryism correct? I don't think so. I
Oh,
think I just made that up.
the fandom, I guess it's best expressed as.
Sure. Explained it to us and all you guys out there. So anybody that I know I've caught some people that are like I remember when it came out, people were, I'd like I don't know, slid in on a comment thread or something and they're like, "Did you know Asherz did an episode on furries?" And I was like, "Yep, that was me." They really enjoyed it though. It's hey, if it's weird, that's where we talk about it over on the Wednesday show. So, but back again this time, a different topic,
Hmm.
but potentially contributing to furries. I don't know. Let's get into it and find out. Um, Chris, whenever you're ready, if you want to go ahead and tell us your first experience with high strangeness, that would be great.
Well, the high strangeness, it's sort of been a thing that's sort of been in my family, but not quite all that much. It's like strange things always happen, and my mother would explain them away as far as being, that's your guardian angel whenever I'd come up to her with like some sort of strange thing that just happened. Like the most common thing was I think it was in my youth when I was my early teens. I would hear the sound of my mother's voice calling me, and it was a summoning call, like she needed help getting a can of beans off the top shelf, which was a frequent thing because she's a short Mexican mom, and she has this tall Anglican son, so it's like and what else am I going to do? So I and there had been several times where I'd come out and I I show up because I was summoned, and I'm like, what? And she's like, what are you talking about? We just do this what back and forth until I tell her that, I heard you call me, and she says, no, that's your guardian angel calling you.
Oh, wow. So
And
did
I
you oh, well, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask, do
Yeah.
you have I know you mentioned having of course a Mexican mom. Did you have a Catholic family, right? Isn't that mostly Mexican
Not
cultures?
really.
Okay.
We grew up Lutheran. My
Oh, okay.
dad grew up with us. We were Lutheran, and
Maybe I just stereotyped you. I'm sorry.
no, it's a common thing because she brought like a few of the cultural stuff in, but not everything.
Gotcha.
Just enough to the basically the discipline
Well,
and everything else. But it's pretty much is that I guess during that time I was in that linear phase, and I guess this is about the age where I believe it was the Enfield poltergeist, where
okay.
that girl, she was in that age, in that age of the transitionary period where she became, I guess, what is commonly referred to in the paranormal spheres as a uh, what do they call it, a poltergeist agent, as
Oh,
if something like that. And maybe I had that, where I was a poltergeist agent for like a short window. But
okay.
I think what was going on is I probably didn't have it like powerfully like someone of that would have it. But it was clear something was tapping into it. But I also had a hobby to channel my energies into, so that way whatever energies were, being channeled went into something. So it wasn't like a loosey goosey type of thing for just any old thing to show up. It was more like a channel thing. And then I guess that was probably just the residual aftermath of I guess the spill off of that.
Okay.
That's what I surmise from what I've studied so far in the paranormal.
Sure. And that hobby, I just want to clarify, because we've had a lot of them on the show, is art. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, it's basically doodling Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because that is what everybody did. Except I wasn't a fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I would draw my comics where Shredder would win, and he was the good guy. So
Oh, so you were the fucked up kid. I'm just kidding. I
yeah,
was too. It's
yeah, pretty
fine.
much.
You're in good
Yeah.
company. um, no, I mean, like I said, honestly, a lot of the people that we've had on this show so far have been artistically inclined. Um, and maybe I'm kind of not necessarily jumping the shark, but maybe jumping ahead a little bit. Do you feel like you find that and the people that you speak with in the paranormal that have had experiences as well?
Hmm. Well, not really. I think I like a lot of the people that have like the more stronger ongoing or who have like a really seismic type experience that really sets off ripples and sets them for a loop. They're not inclined in any manner. They're just
Okay.
regular people. They have hobbies and stuff and interests and stuff like that. But that side, they're more like right side of the brain thinkers, and the artistic fields is more on the left. Now, those who are on the left side of the brain that I have noticed, they're able to focus in on everything like a lot easier because they have those pathways, already established through the creativeness of it. And I think with that, it gives them a sort of channel to figure out stuff sooner. And I guess
Mhm.
that's why a lot of them go into mediumship and channeling and other, and then, and of course, your basic craft store crystal bitch stuff too.
Sure. Compared to the right side, the right brain people who have to work on it harder. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, they mostly just write the books and stuff like this, whereas the ones on the left, they're having their channeling sessions and then making the book covers for the other people type of thing.
Sure.
So
Well,
it
and it could just be the people this season, right? This is the first
mhm,
season of the show. It could just be that we, happen to have all the artists on here because they are used to performing, right? They're used to performing in some type of capacity. So they're more comfortable coming on and talking about their experiences. But, because you are probably maybe the last episode of the season here, people have heard from all kinds of people in artistic avenues, people that draw, people that do graphic design, filmmakers, music makers. Most everyone so far has had some type of artistic ability. I don't. Um, and some people would disagree with me, but listen, you guys, when you hear me on these shows, like I'm not an artist creating something. I'm just being me. Like I'm not. I can't draw. I can't sing. I can't craft. I can't do any of these things. But I've also had a lot of paranormal experiences in my life. So I'm comforted in hearing somebody who says that no, they don't think that's a factor in all this.
mm,
It's a long-winded way to say that I agree with you.
yeah, yeah, and
So
it's like the whatever paranormal stuff. When although sparingly, I do like latch on to the experiences because I want something to, when I talk to these people, to at least have some level of relatability, to know that they're in good company when I'm asking them this stuff and when we're talking about it, during interviews.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, one thing that you do that is unique is you draw these people's experiences, which is something that I think should be a lot more readily available to these people as a resource. We have tons of artists in the community who I understand expect pay, but I think that when you're doing it for a sensitive subject like somebody being vulnerable and coming forward, you're like a experienced sketch artist, and I love that. So, going back to before we get too off the rails, because I know that we can do that, because again, I've recorded with you a bunch of times. Let's go back into these audio kind of phenomena that you've had. So is this something that was just kind of a trend your whole life?
Yeah. And there was one time where I kind of knew that something was completely off, was when I was in my bedroom doodling, and then I hear my mom called, and of course I have to, reluctantly get up because it's I'm in the middle of something.
Hmm.
So I have to get up and check and find my mom, and then I go looking for her, and she's not anywhere in the house. And then I see that she's in the backyard. So I have to open up the sliding glass door, which is rusty and loud, and then see what she wants, and then we go through our back and forth again, and then I close the door. And then looking back on it years from now, I realized that that slide, that since she was outside, if for her to properly call me, I would have had to have heard the sliding glass door open, which I didn't, because it would have rattled the whole house when I did that, because it's an old rusty door. And and thinking back, I never heard any sliding glass door before I heard the summoning call. So that sort of, in a sense, although it's purely anecdotal, that
Mhm.
was like evidence for me to know that something different was completely going on here, and this wasn't just your basic usual stuff.
But it was never like the request that you were getting from her. Well, I guess maybe you weren't getting requests right away. Maybe she was just calling to you initially, and then you'd go and you find out she needed something. She wasn't like, Chris, come change the light bulb. And then you came out and you're like, hey, you need me to change that light bulb? And she was like, well, yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
I guess, I guess a long way to ask if you were getting direct requests from her and then finding out, or if she
No,
was
it
just
was
calling
just
you.
it was just my name being called,
Gotcha. Okay.
and it was in a summoning tone, like she needed something, like she needed
Gotcha.
my assistance with something.
Okay.
Um, and
Yeah.
that was like every single time, that was all that it was. And then when I would come to her, like she didn't need anything, you know, and it's like,
Gotcha.
so it was all for nothing.
Oh,
It
gotcha.
was just like a waste of my time.
Gotcha. It was never like when someone calls you on the phone, right? And you answer it and you're like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I was just about to call you." It wasn't like that. It was just
No,
she didn't need anything at all.
no.
Oh.
Unfortunately, I know it's like it's not all that interesting.
Well, I mean,
But
it is.
but
Is it
but like I explained, that it was definitely something otherworldly, or
sure,
it was something not natural
right.
that was
It
occurring.
wasn't her, right, calling you. So, um has it only ever been your mom that this has happened
Yeah,
with?
I think that was, and I think as I grew into adulthood, it stopped. So
Interesting.
whatever I that's why I bring up the paranormal agent type of thing, that
Mhm.
whatever it was, I guess sort of just petered itself out, or just couldn't find itself on the same wavelength anymore.
It just decided to stop fucking with you. It's like, "This poor kid. We
Mm,
put him through hell. Let's leave him alone for a while."
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I'd be curious to know if it ever, comes back, later on in your life, as you age, sometimes old people are very similar to children mentally. And I'm not saying that to be like mean or rude or anything like that. It's just that, and it's not just like dementia patients, it's just your brain. You hit like a certain peak in your life and then you like start de aging mentally. Just your brain's not fueling you. I mean, you're dying, right?
Mm,
So it's the opposite of growing. But if you look at the brain scans of a child compared to a very elderly person, they're pretty similar in a way. So I just wonder if that's something that might ever, plague you again. Not that I'm hoping to curse you or anything, fucking knock on wood, but um, I wouldn't be personally surprised, if I'm
mm. I've
honest.
been I've been wondering if I would ever hear it, because my mother had passed some years ago. So I mean, I always have my ear out in case something does happen, but so far nothing has ever happened.
Gotcha. And
The
she just,
close
oh,
Yeah,
go
the
ahead.
closest thing that I've had, post my mother's passing, was just, feeling her presence in dreams and stuff like that. But we'll
Right.
probably talk about that like a little bit later.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Now your mother has had high strangeness, but
Yeah.
surrounding you, is that right?
Hmm.
Do you want to go ahead and get into
It
that?
was sure thing. This is the story of the glowing figure in the hallway. My mother, and one of the things that whenever we have family gatherings around on my mother's side, it's always all the women, because it's more of a matriarchy.
Mhm.
So all the women get together in the kitchen and they start swapping ghost stories and stuff like that. And it's just sort of like a sort of, unofficial, female witches coven in there of them just talking all this stuff up. And one of the stories was that when I was when I was 4, and my one of my older siblings, we were packed into one room, and there was this hallway from my parents' bedroom to our bedroom. And my mom, of course, she got up to get some a glass of water or something because it's just what you do or something like that. And she looked down the hallway as she was shuffling down it, and she saw a figure standing outside of her bedroom looking in. And this was a glowing figure. She couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. It would just appear to be like a figure composed of light that was glowing. And it was from the head down to the knees, and then past the knees it sort of faded off, like
Hmm.
like it didn't have like it didn't have the rest of its legs. And it's just looking in on like it's checking in on us. And of course, she jumps at the sight of seeing something that's not supposed to be there. And when she jumps, it immediately fades out of existence.
Interesting. Okay. And so you don't I mean, were you there when this happened? Do you remember the day this happened?
Well, I was like 4 years old and
Mhm.
most likely asleep
Gotcha.
because this was in the middle of the night.
Okay. So you weren't like, "Oh, mom was freaked out that day and she was saw something," and this has just been a story that you've heard
Hmm.
through the grapevine of the story
Yeah.
members, family members your whole life.
Yeah, pretty much.
Interesting. Does she have a history of having strange encounters that you know? I mean, it sounds like like you said, your whole family would get together and talk about this stuff.
Yeah, I think they would talk about like, the neighborhood witches and stuff like that, and I don't know that magic was really like a big part of the family type of thing. It wasn't a thing that was actively pursued, like, because I know that in Hispanic cultures they have the brujas and stuff of that nature. The witch people that you know. I mean, there's ritual, I guess, somewhat magical thinking in most Hispanic culture, like when you rub an egg on your child's forehead when they're sick. It's supposed to absorb the illness and make them better. That's just like old wives' tales, remedies, and stuff like that. And of course, putting vapor rub on everything type of thing.
Sure.
It's just it's more of a cultural thing.
Right.
But as far as initially with the family, I don't know that it really got into that deep. And from what I've been able to, just listening, I don't know that it has ever had like a significant impact to that. But
Sure.
when it came to issues of the paranormal, my mother was very guarded about it, especially with me, getting into it because I describe myself in my youth as a student of the paranormal. I would read all the magazines. I would watch the unsolved mysteries and sightings, the Canadian show, and I think I was probably too young for the Leonard Nimoy series the that he had done, but it was like right after that I think is where I got into that, and I would record, and at that time the Sci-Fi Network would have alien abduction uh, documentaries playing at 3 a.m. So I would set up the Betamax or the VHS to record them, and then I'd watch them, later. And my
So you
mom would warn me to not get myself too worked up into all that stuff because I wouldn't be able to get a good night's sleep. And with her, anything that interfered with my schoolwork was, sort of like a negative influence.
Well, I think that's most parents, right? That's what they want for their kids is to be successful. That's what I want, so that she can eventually take care of me one day, and I don't have
Hmm.
to make the money anymore. That'd be nice. Um, I don't blame you one bit. So you've always just been kind of inclined to have an interest in these topics your whole life,
Hmm.
which is no surprise. I think we all kind of start this at an early age, especially during, in that time period. It seems like there was a big boom in like paranormal media, and it was kind of new and kind of fresh and kind of different. And I think that spoke to a lot of us black sheep growing up. At least that's what I can say for me. But I think that most people would probably agree with that. Um, when you're the weird kid, you have weird interests. It's just what happens.
Hmm.
But you have also have had experiences with spectral type beings. Is that right?
Well, I haven't. I, well, I have now that I think, but yes, I have. One time, let me tell you about the few experiences that I've had, like, and I think family have had with like shadow creatures.
Sure.
I think it was my brother, text me frantically one day because he knows I'm into this because I would like stay up late listening to Coast AM with Art Bell and then George Norrie. And because I had like a rotating shift at the factory that I worked at, I would, I'd be able to get out of work and then tune into the show and then listen to it all night and all that stuff. And when you're on like the rotating overnight shifts, sometimes you can listen to it. And I think it was is that my brother had texted me and he said that he saw a shadow creature or a shadow figure. And then when I asked him to talk to me about it, it was he was driving to the office and then it was at night and then there was like this crossroads where you turn to go into the office and then or there are other warehouses and stuff of that nature, and he saw what looked like a little cat, but it was like a little spectral, like a not like a cloud but like a spot of missing light type of thing.
Hmm.
And there was two little beady eyes, except you didn't see eyes, you saw what was behind it through them, and it was dib
Interesting.
dabbing along the street. It got like more than halfway crossed, and then I guess it saw him coming up on it, and then instead of going all the way down, it just went back the way that it came, like a cat would. So this was probably like a shadow cat of some sort that just gone back and forth, and then just started right back where it came from instead of just completely going the way that it was going.
I want to see a spectral cat. I would try to pet it. Um, I always find those things extra interesting, because when people see like a shadow figure, most reports of them are human, right? There's some type of human. People just
Hmm.
automatically assume that there's some type of like dead person. And then you get animals in the mix. And then, if we're talking about ghost animals, why isn't the planet just absolutely overrun with them? Right? If you combine all the dead humans and all the dead animals throughout history and time, right, we would be swarmed with them. You would think, which kind of lends to my own personal theories of why I think ghosts aren't dead people. But I think I don't know. What do you think about animals being seen in that way?
Like the spectral presence and stuff that's running around. I don't know.
Okay,
I
that's a fair
I,
answer.
I
I think,
wish I knew.
yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things that I just don't get that I guess keeps me coming back. I mean, I'm sure that I've heard of some stories of, if a like someone seen like a specific dog or something or a horse, especially if it's like one with like a that had some sort of prominent history attached to it,
Hmm.
showing up someplace, but why would that leave a mark on history, so to speak, and not necessarily everything else that comes and goes.
Yeah. Well, right, I agree with that. I think it's answering the mystery with another mystery.
Hmm.
But it's just I don't know. It's more interesting to me to see animals and beasts than it is to see, that clearly aren't like cryptids. Cryptids are, flesh and blood, right? Beasts are different. You got dogman encounters where they're misty and weird and disappear, and you got Bigfoot encounters like that too. But those things I think are extra. They just add a little extra salt to the high strangeness, mix. So, um, yeah, very interesting.
Mm.
So, has your sibling now continued to have? I mean, do you guys talk now to this day?
Yeah, well, we talked, but as far as spooky shit that's coming up, I don't think anything has ever come up.
Does he know that you
Yeah.
have a show?
I hope not. I try to keep that stuff from the family. That's
I
why
gotcha.
yeah, I like to use stuff like I have a sibling, not my brother, because it's sort of a. But then again, he's not perpetually online like I am, so I don't think I have to worry about it.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I get it. All my family all knows I have a show. My mom, I hope, does not listen to it. So I don't think she would. So I
Mm.
understand. Um,
Yeah.
so you guys haven't really had any other experiences, or he hasn't had any other experiences that you know of.
No, but if there's anything spooky, they have no problem telling me about it.
Sure.
So it's not anything that's come up recently. Yeah. I remember when I moved into like my new apartment for a while, I felt a sense of presenteeism, and that's sort of like when you just feel like there's like someone standing behind you or something of that nature, and I would see glimpses out of the corner of my eye of a dark figure of like what was like a little girl with her hair all up in the air like snakes and stuff like this, floating around as she would like walk, down the hallway and stuff like this, and in front of the kitchen and things of that nature. And it was just like out of the corner of my eye. And I felt this presenteeism. And then I started talking about it on Facebook, and then someone like challenged me on it, thought that it was ridiculous. And then I felt this weight on my shoulders, like it just left. Like I felt like, oh crap, it talking about this, outing this on Facebook just scared it off, and I never felt the presence since then. So that was sort of a weird thing.
How long ago was that?
That probably would have been probably about like maybe about I'd say about like maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
And how long did that last for?
I think it lasted for the first 6 months
Okay.
I had moved in.
Wow. So she just wasn't gonna. She was okay with being there as long as you didn't recognize that she was there.
I guess so. I think it was more like a transitionary thing. That's you're getting used to a new place. It's starting to feel like it doesn't quite feel like home yet until you know you're completely settled in. And I guess I was getting more settled in. Whatever was there
Gotcha.
was finding its way out.
Was this so it's a new place, but is this the first time you had your own place?
Oh no, it was this would have been in like my second or third place.
Okay. So psychologically, you weren't
Yeah.
having any extra stress or anything like that at that
No,
time.
it's just a new place. It was like a much
Something
nicer
new.
place than what I had lived before. So everything was looking up. Everything was great. I had like a little housewarming party and had my friends over. Everybody loved it, and I loved the new place. And there was really nothing negative or anything like that. So it was just sort of one of the perks of being in someplace new was a new type of ghost type of thing showing up.
I have a friend now.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving is weird, and I think that's something people don't really talk about. It's like a liminal space for
Yep.
yourself. Um,
Yeah. And I
you know,
just
with
I just tell people that she got tired of watching me play XCOM on the computer all day. So
I thought you were gonna say jerking off. That was my
yeah.
immediate. I was like, well, what can you do? When it's 6 times a day.
Yeah, it's one or the other. but
So he was like, I gotta get out of here. This guy.
yeah.
um, well, I mean, we definitely have time to dig into some more stuff here. You've also had a lot of experiences with, well, you kind of mentioned it, sleep. Sleep has been it seems like a strange place for you. Your entire life, it seems like. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I can. Well, I've had when, like I said, I was a student of the paranormal, so I completely understood what sleep paralysis was. And when people have alien encounters and stuff of that nature, they'll, the first culprit is always sleep paralysis. So I've always, been ahead of the curve to try to learn, well, what are the signs, what are the symptoms, how do people get out of it when they're in it, what's the difference between the different types of paralysis and the experiences, to compare and contrast all this and that and of that nature. And one of my, because I would experience sleep paralysis, but I wouldn't have uh, entities show up. SPDs, as I guess people like to call them now, or as I like to call them too. Sleep paralysis demons.
Sure.
That's when people see the shadow people or
Mhm.
the
The
old
old
hag,
hag. Yep.
or when aliens decide to come in and mess around. And so far for me, I had one of those. I used to have those experiences, but I'd feel, I wouldn't see anything. And then one time during the day, I take a nap or something, and I just fall asleep, and I guess as I'm about to go to sleep, I feel the paralysis stuff take over, and what it is that it feels like you don't have blood pumping through your veins. Instead, you have a form of liquid fear that's pumping through your veins, and all your agitation and anxiety just shoots through the roof, and you just feel suddenly scared and afraid for no reason. And there's like no trigger or rhyme or anything for you to be afraid of. And then as
Interesting.
I'm in this state, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in this state. I recognize it. And then because of my studies, and I've kind of had it before, and then the door opens, and then in walk these two misshapen men. They they look like, I guess I could best describe as, cosmic rednecks, or interplanetary, or not really, extra dimensional, white trash or whatever.
That's my new
And
moniker, extra dimensional white trash. I love it.
yeah, and they're, because everyone gets, like I said, the gray witch, aliens, or shadow people. Instead, I get, two, a fat guy and a skinny little guy in trucker caps.
Interesting. Were they wearing like, I mean, were they wearing anything? Did they have clothes on?
Yeah, they had the there was a tall one and a short one. The short one was like, he was the one who was in charge. I felt like he was hunched over, very misshapen. He had on a plaid, a green and blue plaid out outer shirt, and then I guess it's like a regular black tee, and then some jeans, and of course a trucker's cap. He had long hair, spiky hair, and he had like one of those um like Fu Manchu mustaches, but it was really long and bushly. And he had this weathered face and this stern look. And and then the second entity was tall. His head almost hit the ceiling. He was like 6 or 7 feet tall, and he was really, really fat. And he had on these tight black, almost like bicycle shorts on, and and he had on this tight black t-shirt that was it was like really tight but not big enough to cover his body because his belly was hanging out. And of course he had a trucker cap on too, and he had long, flowy, spiky red hair, and a a really passive, almost dumb look on his face. And he really wasn't, looking at me or doing it. He was just doing the bidding of the smaller entity. And when they stepped in, they didn't mess with me or do anything to me at all. Their interest was going through my refuge. So they would open up, doors to my closets, look in there, shuffle through stuff. They'd open up drawers and go through them. They they would even open up doors into walls that didn't have doors. So I guess, they somehow they found more closet space and just look through stuff. And every now and then the short one would peek to me to make sure I'm not moving. And then once I started to gain control, and to come back to, they show themselves out and close the door behind them. And then when I wake up, or I'm awake, I'm already awake. But when I get up, you know, I'm again riddled with anxiety. I, I, I know what happened, but I have to know what happened, type of thing. And I check all my security and locks, and everything's double bolted, and all the circuit electronic alarms aren't triggered. You know, there was really literally no place for them to go to get out without triggering something or having to unlock something.
And they're not, and nothing's out of place, right?
No,
All
yeah,
the
yeah,
items
and
are.
and it's like they just disappeared into fat air. And as far as anything out of place, well, my place is all my drawers and stuff are junk anyway, so I
Yeah,
can't even tell if anything's been messed with or taken.
sure. Well, that's honest. So this is something that has happened multiple times?
I would say this was like a one off.
Okay,
Maybe I felt the familiar presence like maybe one or two more times
gotcha.
that I felt like, okay, it's these guys again. But other than that, it was just a complete one off.
Interesting. So, did you, because, well, like you said, you've already had, one foot in the door on these topics majority of your life. Um, did you have sleep paralysis after? Because some people say that just knowing that sleep paralysis exists can induce an episode. Were you aware of sleep paralysis before you started having it yourself?
Yeah, yeah, I was
Okay.
completely aware.
Okay.
I knew the tips and tricks on how to get out of it. Like you wiggle your finger or your toe, and then the synapses in your brain will start reconnecting again, and you'll gain control of your body. And I've
Does it
done that
work?
like, yeah, I've done that several times. And usually it's just, I feel the experience coming on, and then I will myself out of it. And then you just got to resettle. Usually it's just, it's like whatever, you just change your sleeping posture, and then it just completely, goes away, something of that nature.
And you're fine again. Do you
Hmm.
still experience it now?
So far, no.
Okay. How
I
long do you
think
think it's
it's
been?
I think it's like as you manage stress in your life, it comes and it goes. And I think the better that I sleep, and stuff of that nature, the less likely you're gonna have it.
Gotcha. Well, that's, I think, the key to most mental health issues, right? Or health issues, I guess, in general, overall. Just take better care of yourself and you have better results, I guess, is
Hmm.
what they say. No, I endorse it. Yes, health is important, health, physically and mentally. Definitely take care of yourselves. Interesting. Have you had sleep issues your whole life? Are you a bad sleeper? Do you think you're a good sleeper? Or, up until this point, I guess modern day, have you been a good sleeper?
Well, unless I'm like oversleeping or something of that nature, I really don't think I have any issues sleeping.
Okay. So no insomnia
No,
or waking up a couple times a night or anything like that. That's abnormal.
no. No,
Okay.
not anything different about that.
What about dreams? I know that you've had a couple of strange dreams. Are you a vivid dreamer?
Yeah, I think I've had a few livid dreams, the or lucid dreams.
Yeah, lucid dreams. Okay.
I remember I
Okay.
had one, and I knew it was a lucid dream, but it was weird because it was a lucid dream, and I was having sleep paralysis in the dream.
Oh,
So that's like, what is that all about?
it's meta.
Yeah,
It's
I know, right? And in this dream, the setting is it's a war. It's the Civil War, and for some reason, I'm in a dark forest, but I'm laying on a mattress in the dark forest, and I through the trees you could hear battle, and you could see fire through the tree tips, through the spaces between the trees,
okay.
and standing next to me is an entity. It's a woman, a brown haired woman, and she's got her back to me, and she sort of has this white dress, and it's like an underdress that these women would wear, and for some reason this goes through my head. It's like, it's like, oh, I got a sleep paralysis creature right here. I just got to reach out and grab her. So I will all my strength into one of my extremities, and I reach out to grab her wrist, and I think what I grab instead is her ass cheek, and I can actually feel reality shifting around me, and my wrist turning as what was me reaching out to grab her ass cheek is instead I have this death grip on the corner of my mattress instead. You know,
Okay. Soft and round. Sure.
yeah, yeah, and somehow that's just how I wake up. Then, as I wake up into that, and it's like, and that was sort of the dream, some part. And I do like, and the entire time she was facing away from me, so I never got to see her face or what she looked like or anything of that nature. And it was just a weird one-off experience. It's like
Interesting.
I finally touched a sleep paralysis entity, and of course it's me, groping one, and of
Sure.
course it shifts, completely slips out of the reality entirely and just leaves me hanging, type of thing.
I know you could have had the experience of your lifetime in that one.
Mm,
You should have stopped wiggling your toes.
yeah.
No, that is really odd. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody dreaming about having sleep paralysis, or at least not being able to know that that's what's happening.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm sure there's accounts of people that think that they had a sleep paralysis experience, but it was actually a dream. But I don't know. Um, I've thankfully never been one to have any of those experiences, and I don't want
Hmm.
to. So if those sleep paralysis demons could stay out of my house, that'd be great. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
But you've had other dreams, right? That also you
Yeah.
feel like you talked about like your mom in the beginning, um, being visited by her after her death. Is Did I get that right?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of things where, you know because I one of the things when it comes to the dream type of stuff and dream interpretation and all that stuff, I understand it's one of those personal things that you got to like sort of take it in with like a bigger picture, but also it's very difficult to explain to other people, because even though something might be a profound experience for you, other people aren't going to have the same connections that you would.
Right.
It's like when people explain how, meaningful and how, how prominent the experiences synchronicity is.
Oh yeah.
For some people, like, well, it means everything to the world to me that I saw this and it represented that. Well, everyone else sees it as, no, you just looked up and saw the number 11, and it thought about something that you were already thinking about, type of thing.
Right.
With the dream stuff, though, like, there was, my mom, and then I had this family dog growing up, and I saw both of them in my dreams, like not together, but at separate stages in my life. And they both had like significant meaning to me. But when I would see my mother, like every now and then, my mother like hops into my dreams as if to check on me. And the thing that happens with her is that she integrates herself into whatever dream I'm having, like Agent Smith in The Matrix.
Okay.
So,
So she's out of place
yeah.
sometimes. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
one time I have a dream. For some reason, I'm dreaming I'm at a college toga party or whatever. I'm dressed in a toga,
Sure.
and everybody's partying and drinking and doing whatever happens at those parties, like whatever you see in Animal House or those movies or that type of stuff. That is going on, and I'm talking to this person, and then in the background, I see that there's my mom, and she's on a lawn chair, and she has this margarita mix that comes in the box, and she's like pouring it into this kiddie pool, you know, and she's just dressed in just like a shirt and shorts and stuff like this, and like the party's going on, and she's just making a big old kiddie pool sized margarita, a gigantic margarita type of thing going on, she's just in the background, all nonchalant, like nothing's wrong, you know. And then I wake up and I was like, wait a minute, and I'm trying to figure that out. It's like it doesn't mean anything, but to me, it's like I felt her strong presence there, and it was it was profound for me, and it was really hilarious in a way. And then
Wow.
there was one
Okay.
time where I guess I really got hit with the feeling, the presence. There was where I was at a I guess I was at an anime convention or whatever. Stuff was going on. There I was in like Artist Alley or whatever, and it was in one of the hallways of the hotel, and there was people running back and forth, and it was very very busy. And then I noticed at one of the tables is my mother, and she usually did like a lot of craft stuff. Well, in this one, she's like doing her crafts at the Artist Alley vending table, and I guess she's making sales and stuff like that, or whatever, you know. And then I walk up to her, and I guess we talk a little bit, and then and everything's just going on fine. And as far as in the dream, I don't have any pressing matters or any place to be, so I just and then just something in me just wells up, so I just I walk behind the table to where she is, and then I just kneel right next to her, and I just wrap my arms around her and just hold on to her, and just start crying because just profoundly, because all this emotion is just hitting me. And as I'm doing this, she's still like painting little things, and patting me on the head, and and stuff like that. And I mean, I didn't know if I was there for 15 minutes or 4 hours, but it just felt like forever. And it just, I don't know, I just, it was this overwhelming powerful feeling that just came over me, within the dream. And it's something that I'm really grateful to have, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think anybody who has lost a loved one, that hasn't experienced that, wishes they could. Even if it was psychological and not supernatural. You know what I mean? At least it's
Hmm.
still for you. Something for you, whether that be on purpose or not. I think that I think it's nice that you can take these experiences and look at them like that objectively. Is she still checking up on you? Is it just, your brain hoping that she does? Well, it's up to you to decide, right? Like you said,
Hmm.
it's a personal experience that, nobody else can tell you, what it is that you're experiencing. Only you, you
Yeah,
you
yeah.
assign the significance to it.
Hmm.
Has she ever talked to you in any of the dreams?
Mm. I'm sure that we've had conversations, but it's not like anything like, here's the winning lottery numbers, or look out for this upcoming calamity or anything of that nature. It's
Sure.
just, if it's anything, it's just, just personal, chit chat, and that's all that it is.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. But you've also had this experience with a family pet too?
Yeah, yeah, with my dog. We
That
used to
is
have this
very
little
cool.
black dog, and I got him when I was like 7 years old. And the family had him all the way up until I was 21. So he was there for like a significant part of my life, pretty
Oh
much
yeah.
all my growing up. He was always there.
You grew up together. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can remember three instances that stood out. And in each of them, I was at a different state in my life. And in the first one, I experienced him. I saw him. He was like, he had a very haggard, body. Like he was past, he had just passed or something of that nature. He was, very weak, very emaciated, just in the worst shape. And I would just walk up to him and I just pet him, and just be there with him and just enjoy that time with him. And then as the next time I saw him, he was a little bit healthier, but still, looked deathly sick. And I would, pet him and spend some time with them and stuff of that nature. And then one dream I had, the last dream was this one. I came in, it was like I came in like mid story of an already ongoing dream where it was me and it was my dog, and we were running through this haunted house, like Scooby Doo style, you know, chasing ghosts or whatever. We were in the middle of an adventure. And in this adventure, he was, he was full of vigor and virile and strong. And he was, keeping up with me, and, just the hair was flowing through his body and stuff like this nature. And everything was just, on firing on all nine cylinders, and everything was fantastic, you know, and it's that sort of, thing. And I guess he got healthier as I got better, you know, mentally. I guess as I got in a better mental place in the dreams, he got healthier. So I guess that was sort of my incentive to, grow and improve as a person, because the next time I would see him, he would be stronger.
Wow. That's a great motivator for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. When's the last time you saw him in one of your dreams?
No, I can't remember other than the haunted house one. That was probably, it. I don't know that I've felt his presence, or him or my mother's presence in quite some time.
Gotcha. And do you feel, I mean, obviously you're kind of saying that, do you feel like these correlate to your own mental growth? So do you feel, I mean, we're always a work in progress, right? It never stops. But do you feel like that tracks? Do you feel like that checks out?
I think so. I think, if I do see them again, it'll probably, it'll probably be on good terms, and it'll be like a good thing, and it'll be like, a bonus, so to speak. But as far as, recently, I can't say that I have. It's just not something that's come up recently that I've, had, taken note of. But
Sure.
I'm sure sporadically here and there, I probably maybe felt a presence, and or seen them or running into them in a dream of something, and just hadn't written it down yet.
Sure. Well, and sometimes you wake up and you've had a dream, you've had a significant dream, but you immediately forget it. It happens. That's what dreams do. Do you have? I mean, I'm sure you do. Do you have any really? significant afterlife beliefs? I mean, what do you think happens when people die?
I hope that there's something out after. I don't know what it is exactly or how it works for every single person because we have our religious and moral prerequisites that we like to put on everything.
Sure.
But I'd like to think that, that good things happen for good people and bad people get a chance to reflect and make amends. And, you know, that,
No, no hardcore
yeah.
beliefs.
Yeah, nothing too harsh or judgy.
Gotcha.
It's
Yeah.
just, I think everybody gets their cake in the end of that night, so as we could say that.
I hope so. I'd like cake at the end of this journey. Something. Damn, it's been hard. No, yeah, I don't know. Usually I don't like somebody that almost died kind of recently. I don't really reflect on it a lot because I'm here now. And honestly, the scariest thing to me is if we die and nothing at all happens, and I think some people probably find that surprising from the girl who, rejects all religion pretty much. But, I think that that would be worse. I don't know. I guess does it matter if we don't remember it? I don't know. You know,
Hmm.
if that's what happens, I'm not sure. Um, Everybody's got their own beliefs there. I was just kind of curious if maybe this, played into your own experiences and what you feel like you've had in your life. Do you think any of these experiences have really held everything we've talked about have really held a deep significance to you, or do you feel like they're all just kind of little pieces of your personal puzzle that have made you who you are now?
I think so. I think so. I definitely cherish them, and really, hold them as treasured moments in my life. A lot of and I understand that a lot of people with their paranormal stuff, they don't have that because it's a big, scary experience. So I do feel sort of honored that what little I have is something, you know, that's really special and profound and interesting and personalized to me that it is something very low key and fun.
It's wholesome. Yeah, you have wholesome
Yeah.
experiences, not
Hmm.
the scary kind. We've heard plenty of that this season. You know what I mean? Not that there's anything wrong with people who it's not their fault. They have them, right? But um, would you be? I mean, as someone who talks to people about their experiences, do you want to have a more significant experience? Like, would you want to encounter a dog man? Would you want to be abducted by aliens? How do you feel about that in the future?
Well, like anyone else, I'd like to know.
Sure.
I like if there was a chance for me to see and meet a dog man, that would, yeah, I would definitely jump at it. Same thing with aliens. Now, if they go with like the Faustian bargain of, yeah, you can know the truth, but you can't share it with anyone, and you disappear forever type of thing, which seems to be, what a lot of people go on. And yeah, I probably would, see what the truth is and get my, satisfaction with that.
You'd take that deal.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, that's my favorite uh Tales from the Dark Side segment, the Gargoyle Lady. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it. Uh but basically the same concept. You see something weird and you can't tell anybody ever. Um I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if I could take that deal. Um I do want to know, but again, you assign significance where it's at. My significance is that I meant to share it with everybody. So if I know something more, I'm going to tell everybody about it, and then I will disappear from cognition or whatever happens.
Hmm.
That's my lot in life. Um, I think we've covered
Yeah.
pretty much everything. Is there anything that we're leaving out? Anything else you wanna spin on?
Uh, there was that one time I saw a UFO, but I think we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Yeah, we can save that for another day. Um, Not an issue at all. I mean, obviously I'm no, you're no stranger here. So, I'm sure we'll have you back on, not a problem. Okay. Well, in the meantime, do you want to go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you?
Sure, you can find me at Conspire Theory Podcast. Just look for it anywhere you go, Conspire Theory, and you'll find me on there. You can find me at Instagram, which is usually the best place to find me. Just go look up at IG and go Conspire a Theory, all one word. Same thing on Twitter. And you'll be able to find me there at Conspire Theory pretty much everywhere. And then there you could check out my art on IG. I post other stuff too, but you could easily find my artwork and stuff on there. And, some of the stuff I like to talk about. And that's probably the most fun place that I like to hang out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've definitely done you've done a couple pieces of artwork for myself. You did my little person sighting, and you did my furry rendition. I think you've done two of
Mhm.
those, haven't you?
Yeah, I think, no, it's just the one.
Maybe you've just done the one. Yeah,
Oh, wait.
maybe.
Yeah, there was the other one. Yeah.
I thought there was
Yeah. When
two.
I think it
Maybe.
was one with you and Pat.
Yes. Yeah.
And then one
Yes.
that was
Yep.
like the video game.
The
Yeah.
solo, yeah. And then you also designed the poster with me and Pat on it, which you can purchase at any of the events that you find me at. We still have some. Once they're gone, though. I might have you do a new one, but right, we'll get rid of these ones first. Very neat. So yeah, definitely go check out Chris and everything that he does, and I will post all the links in the description. And with that being said, guys, we'll see you back here on the next episode.